Hey, it's Panda, and welcome to this Mabinogi Glenn VHM tutorial. So, the actual name for this is Primeval Winter, but most people don't call it that. You'll either hear Glenn VHM or maybe even Glenn Elite. So, as you just saw, I clicked on hard mode before entering. So, pretty much VHM is Glenn hard mode up until when you get to the third room after you defeat the Yetis and you have to talk to the brazier, you have to click a different option than what you press in hard mode. And you will only see the option to enter VHM because both sides need to kill 2 deers. Killing deer is really important for VHM. So this video is with my Glenn VHM static group, but say if you're running in a public group, they'll often tell you to go to your spots. And what they mean by this is in the final boss room at 80%, there is a hit check mechanic. Usually they want everyone to go to their spots just to make sure they know where they're going for that mechanic. And it's usually based off of your party number in the party. But don't worry, I'll go into further detail when we get there. So when determining who should be on what side, you have to think about the final boss room. So the people in purple are going to be the ones that are doing a deer mechanic in the final boss room while everyone else is attacking the boss. So before we get to the third room, in either the first or second room, we need to get 2 firewood and 2 embers, which you can see in the top right. And we can only get those by killing the deer. We love getting part-time job success. It's important to note that if you get rammed by the deer or if you die and you had firewood or embers, you will lose them. And so just always make sure you're keeping an eye out in the top right to make sure each side has their 2. Okay, so now I'm going to speed this video up to the point where it changes from being Glenn hard mode to Glenn VHM. Once each side is done killing the Yetis, the brazier will spawn, just like how it normally does. The option that you're going to want to click is Burn All Firewood and Embers. This is how you enter VHM. Destroying the barrier is the exact same as how you've been doing in Glenn Normal and Glenn Hard Mode. And after you destroy the barrier is where things are going to change. After you finish breaking the barrier together, you immediately go into the Grey World. And in the Grey World, you cannot take any potions. So that's why you have Harmonic Saints, because if you get hit with her attacks, you'll get chill stacks. Here, it is really important that you are using all the debuffs that you can on her. So shortly here, Grandma's going to spawn. And so what's going to happen is you will keep DPSing the Unfinished Reverie to about 25% or so. And then we are all going to head south. And we're just going to head south because that's where we like placing the brazier for the boss room, but other teams may do it differently. So essentially, Grandma's going to follow us to the south, and wherever she is, that is where the brazier is going to be placed in the final boss room. That brazier is very important for the deer mechanic, so it's important that you are placing the brazier as far south or as far away from the center, because red circles will often spawn in the center. So you don't want the brazier in the center because your deer people are going to start taking chill stacks by placing the firewood and embers in the brazier. So it's best if the brazier is on the outside. So we usually huddle up in the south, and then once Grandma gets to about right there, we then all shadow cloak back, except for one person who usually uses Discord on her and puts red seals down to slow her down. Yeah, so this one's a little scuffed. She kind of moved to the center a little bit, but I think she's okay there. Surely we'll be fine. So whenever there's like a transition phase, you always want to make sure someone's pragging and peeling. So I know it's really tempting to get those puddles of light, but do not do that because you're going to spawn mobs, and those mobs are annoying. So now everyone on night side will be taking chill stacks if they get hit by your attacks or by the beams. I will say her attack range is a lot bigger in VHM, and she can also change direction mid swinging, so be very careful. At 80% is that hit check mechanic I mentioned earlier. So we will be hitting Kaliak about 15 times with either Thunder or Wave the Gun, and we need to make sure we are spawning all the circles. There's a total of 8, and once they are all spawned, we then head to our circles. Since I'm running with my static, we have set spots that never change because we run with the same people. But if you are doing a public run, they will usually go off of party number. Also, since I'm in the 1 spot, I usually call out when I see that the last circle, number 8, has spawned, and I let everyone know that we're done so everyone can then head to their circles. Here I usually use Wave the Gun, and then I position my camera to where my spot is. If you do not get to your spot in time, you and your partner's lifeline will go straight to 0%. You also will not be able to get back up. Also, if you and someone else step in the same exact circle, that circle will despawn, and then you guys will probably both end up dead. So sometimes teams will then shadow cloak to a certain part of the map to get ready to fight. But you see, mine's on cooldown, so I'm not going to be shadow cloaking, but I will say sprites can be a menace in here, so it's really important that you are linking with a pet. Here, I usually like dropping a cater for my team, and I usually go for like the 500 HP caters because in VHM, you're oftentimes going to be taking 750 chill stacks and maybe even more. So that's why I go for those caters. So now we kind of just wait for the boss to come over here. Sometimes she just doesn't want to move, so sometimes we end up going to her. It just kind of depends. The next mechanic we will have is at 70%, which is swords. Just like how they are in hard mode, except they happen a lot faster. So if you are not getting an ice crystal or getting behind someone who got in one, you need to load up an iframe immediately, pretty much. The next mechanic that happens is at 60%, which is that deer mechanic that I mentioned earlier. At 60%, the boss is going to kneel, and then we won't be able to move. So when that's happening, we usually have someone re-polymarch. The deer people are also going to be getting ready to go and do that mechanic. So every HS is different, but this is like my routine. What I do is I use Purifying Wave, I then summon a Fairy Dragon, and then I link with my pet. I make sure me and my pet have overshield and a lot of it, and then I Shield of Trust, and then I go and get the puddles. The last puddle that the Harmonic Saint gets is where the deer will spawn at. So I usually look at where my deer DPS are, and then I usually take the last puddle in accordance to them. I will then use Deathmark on the deer while one of them Fate Weavers it. Yeah, sometimes the boss spawns on top of the deer people, which can be pretty rough for the other people DPSing. Enray, who is on day side, killed the deer first, and so now I need to spawn the deer again for the night side deer person, which is Izir. Typically, you have the day side deer person kill the deer first and then turn in their firewood to the brazier, and then you have the night side deer person kill the deer and then turn in their firewood to the brazier. We have a minute and 30 seconds to kill the 2 deers and turn in the firewood and ember to the brazier. If we don't do that within the time, the whole party will die and the run will end. So after turning those into the brazier, we immediately go into the gray world, and this is where the burst damage phase happens. Here, you want to make sure your Harmonic Saints are using Polyruination, while the DPS are using Time Shift and Exploit Weakness. Depending on how much damage your party does during this phase, determines on whether or not you need to do the deer mechanic again. During the run, you're going to see these tornadoes, so you're going to want to make sure a Harmonic Saint is using Blessing and Protection. But if that's on CD, you're then going to want to Shield to Trust yourself and avoid those, because those are annoying. So here we do the deer mechanic again because we are not close to 20%, which is Eternal Winter. Honestly, I probably should have died here, but somehow I didn't, so I'll take that. From 60% to below, you may have to go and do the sword mechanic. It's kind of like the mechanic that you see in Theta with the green gas thing. So basically, when the circle fills up, you then want to anchor rush out or meridian sweep, or you can also ride your pet. It's really good if you can place swords on top of each other by using anchor rush, but here I don't do that. I think I just like wasn't feeling it or something. I don't know. Also, whatever you do, do not put a sword on the brazier because that just makes it so much harder for the deer people to turn in their firewood and embers into the brazier because they're going to be getting chill stacks. At 30%, we get swords again, and the swords are going to be dropping on the dayside people. Now we push to 20%, which is Eternal Winter. In Eternal Winter, you will keep getting those tornadoes, as well as you may also have to go put a sword away. As Harmonic Saints, I'm always looking out for the people that are putting a sword away and making sure they have heals and overshield. It's really important in here that you are dodging as much as you can, because it can get pretty dicey in here. If your whole party stays alive from 60% to 0%, then you will get the Uniter of Dawn and Dusk title, which is this. If it's your first time running Glenn VHM, I definitely recommend you record your runs. So speaking from my personal experience, when I had first started running Glenn VHM, I struggled a lot. I was often thinking, like, maybe I'm not ready for this, right? But after recording my runs, and then I had one of my friends, shout out to Sakuyami, who watched my runs and gave me a lot of good pointers because they are a really good Harmonic Saint, and I found that I really improved. I wasn't Shield of Trusting before doing puddles, so I had incorporated that, which really helped me, as well as also using Unified Might is also a really good pointer, so that can also help speed up the DPS if your DPS is lacking. By recording your runs and then watching it later, like oftentimes I was like, why did I do that? What am I doing? You know? So it allows you to see like what works and what doesn't work, and it helps you improve for your next runs. Basically, just don't be hard on yourself if it's your first time running Glenn VHM. It definitely takes a lot of time getting used to all of the mechanics. Well, that concludes the video. I hope everyone has a great day and good luck on your runs.